The gun was pressed against Zara's temple, cold and unforgiving, when Ji-Hoon walked into the warehouse with murder in his eyes. "Remove that weapon from her head," he said quietly, his voice deadly calm. "And I'll make your death quick. Keep it there, and I'll make sure you beg for weeks before I let you die." But we're getting ahead of ourselves. To understand how a black bartender from Atlanta ended up with Seoul's most dangerous man willing to start a war over her, we need to go back 72 hours. Back to the moment everything changed. Back to the night Zara Mitchell danced without knowing a predator was watching. Welcome to Ken's Romance Stories, besties. Before we dive into this story, please hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. This story gets wild, and you don't want to miss a single twist. Now, let's go back to where it all began. Zara's phone buzzed with another message from her grandmother in Atlanta as she rode the Seoul subway toward Gangnam. She didn't need to read it to know what it said. The same thing it had said for the past 3 weeks. "Baby, when you coming home? This Korea thing ain't working out." But going home meant admitting failure. Meant accepting that her modeling dreams were dead, that she'd wasted 2 years in Asia chasing something that was never going to happen, that at 26 she was starting over with nothing. So instead, she showed up to her bartending shift at Eclipse Lounge, put on a smile, and mixed drinks for Korea's elite while pretending her life wasn't falling apart. Eclipse was different from the other clubs in Gangnam. No tourists, no English-speaking expats, no college kids celebrating birthdays, just exclusive memberships, private parties, and the kind of money that didn't ask for receipts. Zara had gotten the job through a friend of a friend who'd vouched for her despite her limited Korean. The owner, Mr. Kim, had looked her up and down with calculating eyes and said, "You're exotic. The members will like that. Don't cause trouble, and you'll make good money." She'd swallowed her pride and taken the job. Exotic. Like she was a fucking zoo animal. But the tips were incredible, and she was sending 300,000 won home to her grandmother every week to help with the medical bills that never seemed to stop coming. Tonight was supposed to be routine. Another Friday night, another private party, another shift of staying invisible while serving drinks to men who looked through her like she was furniture. She arrived at 8 p.m. to find the club in lockdown mode. "Big party tonight," her coworker Min Ji whispered in broken English as they set up the bar. "Very important people. Mr. Kim says we serve drinks. We don't talk. We don't look at anyone directly." "Who rented the place?" Zara asked. Min Ji's face went pale. "The kind of people you don't ask about." By 10 p.m., Zara understood. The men who filled Eclipse weren't businessmen or celebrities. They moved with the controlled violence of predators, spoke in low voices that commanded immediate obedience, and wore expensive suits that couldn't hide the danger underneath. This was a gangster party. Zara kept her head down, mixed drinks with mechanical efficiency, and tried to pretend her hands weren't shaking every time one of the men approached the bar. She'd been in Seoul long enough to know about the gangs that ran the city's underground, the businesses that operated in shadows, the men who controlled everything from protection rackets to prostitution to drug trafficking, all while wearing Armani and eating at Michelin-starred restaurants. Stay invisible. Stay safe. Get through the shift. That was the plan. Then midnight hit, and everything went to hell. The DJ, some famous producer Zara didn't recognize, had been playing safe club music all night. Deep house, EDM, the kind of beats that filled space without demanding attention. Then, without warning, he dropped something different. The opening notes of Water by Tyla flooded the speakers. immediately followed by a smooth transition into an Afrobeats rhythm that hit Zara like a physical force. Then came the amapiano drums, the kind that made her hips move before her brain could register the decision. It was her music, not K-pop, not American club hits, but the music that lived in her bones, that connected her to home, to her roots, to the part of herself she'd been suppressing for months while trying to survive in a country that saw her as exotic, but never quite human. Her body responded instinctively, a subtle sway while pouring whiskey, a shoulder roll while shaking a martini. By the time she turned to place drinks on the bar, she was fully dancing, not performing, not trying to be sexy, just moving because the music demanded it. Her thick thighs shifted in the tight black dress. Her locks swayed like water. Her full hips rolled with the kind of natural rhythm that couldn't be taught or faked. She threw her head back, eyes closed, lost in a moment of pure joy. She didn't notice the room had gone silent. Didn't notice every conversation had stopped. Didn't notice that 50 pairs of eyes had turned to watch her. Didn't notice the man in the shadows who'd stood up like he'd been struck by lightning. Zara spun, laughing, caught up in the music, her curvy body moving with unconscious sensuality. The purple lighting made her dark skin glow. The bass made the floor vibrate. For 30 perfect seconds, she forgot where she was. Then the music cut off abruptly. The silence was deafening. Zara's eyes snapped open, her smile dying as she registered the stares. 50 men, all looking at her. The room so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Oh God. Oh no. She'd broken the rules, drew attention, made herself visible when she was supposed to disappear into the background. Minji had vanished. The other bartenders had melted away. Suddenly, Zara was alone behind the bar, exposed, vulnerable. Then the crowd parted. A man walked through the sea of expensive suits like Moses parting the Red Sea, and Zara's breath caught in her throat. He was tall, easily 6'3", with the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, eyes so dark they looked black in the dim lighting, jet black hair styled perfectly despite the late hour, an all-black suit that screamed custom-tailored and probably cost more than her yearly salary, but it wasn't his looks that made her freeze. It was the way he moved, the absolute confidence, the aura of power so thick it was almost visible, the way every single person in the room watched him with a mixture of fear and reverence. This was the apex predator, the man even other dangerous men were afraid of, and he was walking straight toward her like she was the only person in the entire club. Zara's survival instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She stood frozen behind the bar, watching him approach with the horrible fascination of prey watching a predator close in. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark that made her head spin, close enough to see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. Up close, he was even more devastating. And absolutely terrifying. "What's your name?" he asked in English, his Korean accent thick but his words clear. Zara's throat was dry. "Zara. Zara," he repeated slowly, like he was tasting wine. His eyes traveled down her body, not crude or leering, but assessing, claiming, like he was cataloging every curve, every inch of her, and deciding it all belonged to him now. "Do you know who I am?" She shook her head, though she could guess. Someone powerful, someone dangerous, someone who could make her disappear with a phone call. Kang Ji-Hoon, he said simply. The name hit like a punch to the gut. Even Zara, who'd only been in Seoul 8 months, had heard whispers about the Kang family, the invisible empire that controlled half the city's underground, the name that made police look the other way and politicians tremble. The organization so powerful that even speaking about it too loudly could get you hurt. And the man in charge, the young boss who'd taken over at 25 and ruthlessly consolidated power, was standing in front of her, looking at her like she was something he'd decided to own. I was just dancing, Zara stammered. I didn't mean to disrupt your party. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Disrupt? Ji-Hoon's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. You didn't disrupt anything, Zara. You captivated everyone in this room. He leaned forward, his hands bracing on the bar on either side of her, caging her in without touching her. His face was inches from hers now, his dark eyes boring into her with an intensity that made her knees weak. You dance like that often? He asked quietly, his voice low enough that only she could hear. When the music's good, Zara managed. And the music was good tonight. It reminded me of home. Something flickered in his eyes. Where's home? Atlanta, Georgia, in America. You're far from home, Zara, from Atlanta. His gaze traced her face like he was memorizing every detail. What brought you to Seoul? Modeling contract. It fell through. I needed work. So you bartend? It wasn't a question. How long? 3 months here. Before that, 6 months in Tokyo. You like it? Serving drinks to men who look through you? The bluntness of the question surprised her. It pays the bills. That's not what I asked. Zara met his eyes, seeing genuine curiosity there beneath the predatory intensity. No, she admitted. I hate it, but I'm good at it. And I need the money. Ji-Hoon nodded slowly, like she'd confirmed something he already suspected. Then he straightened, pulled out his phone, and made a call. He spoke rapid Korean, never taking his eyes off Zara's face. The conversation was brief, his tone brooking no argument. When he hung up, he looked at her with something absolute and terrifying. You don't work here anymore, he said simply. Zara's heart stopped. What? I just bought this club. Your employment contract is now void. Panic flooded through her. You can't just fire me. I need this job. I have bills. I have to send money home. I'm not firing you. Ji-Hoon's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone in a gesture so gentle it contrasted completely with his words. You're mine now, Zara. You work for me personally. You'll be taken care of. You'll want for nothing. But you belong to me. The words should have terrified her, should have sent her running. But when Zara looked into King Ji-Hoon's eyes, she saw something that stopped her cold. Hunger, loneliness, a desperate, aching need that mirrored the emptiness she'd been carrying since her life fell apart. 2 broken people recognizing each other across an impossible divide. This is crazy, she whispered. Yes, he agreed. His thumb traced her bottom lip, and heat flooded through her at the simple touch. But you're going to say yes anyway, because you feel it too. This thing between us. He was right. God help her, he was right. There was something between them, something immediate and irrevocable and completely insane, like gravity, like magnets, like 2 puzzle pieces that shouldn't fit, but did. What if I say no? Zara asked, though they both knew she wouldn't. Ji-Hoon's smile was slow and absolutely devastating. Then I'll have to convince you. 20 minutes later, Zara sat in the back of a Mercedes that cost more than her parents' house in Atlanta, trying to process what the hell was happening to her life. Ji-Hoon sat beside her, close enough that their thighs touched, his hand resting possessively on her knee. His driver navigated Seoul's late-night traffic in silence, while Ji-Hoon made phone calls in Korean, his voice commanding and absolute. Zara should have been terrified, should have demanded he let her out of the car, should have called someone, anyone, for help. But she wasn't scared. That was the crazy part. When Ji-Hoon touched her, she felt safe. When he looked at her, she felt seen, in a way she hadn't been in years. When he said she was his, something primal and feminine inside her responded with a resounding yes. It was insane, completely insane. But Zara was tired of being safe. Being safe had gotten her a failed modeling career, a dead-end bartending job, and a crushing loneliness that made her cry herself to sleep most nights. Maybe insane was exactly what she needed. The car pulled up outside a building that made Eclipse look cheap. All glass and steel, towering into the Seoul skyline, dripping with wealth and power. "Where are we?" Zara asked as Ji-Hoon helped her out of the car. "My home." The penthouse took up the entire top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture that screamed expensive designer, art on the walls that probably belonged in museums, a kitchen that looked like it had never been used. It was beautiful and completely sterile, like a showroom, not a home. Ji-Hoon poured 2 glasses of wine and gestured for her to sit on the leather sofa. Zara perched on the edge, her heart racing, while he settled beside her with the casual confidence of a man who'd never doubted his right to take up space. "I want to make you an offer," he said, handing her the wine. "What kind of offer?" "I need someone visible beside me. Someone who doesn't belong to the usual circles. Someone fresh, beautiful. Someone who makes a statement." Zara's stomach sank. "You want a trophy girlfriend?" "No." His eyes flashed. "I want you. Specifically you. The woman who danced like she forgot she was supposed to be invisible, who looked at me without fear, who makes my chest tight just by existing." Heat flooded through Zara at the raw honesty in his voice. "Here's the offer," Ji-Hoon continued. "You stay with me. Live here. Accompany me to events. Be mine, publicly and privately. In exchange, you'll have everything. Money, security, protection. Your grandmother's medical bills, paid. Your debt, gone. Your dreams of modeling. I own agencies. I'll make it happen." "And what do you get?" Zara asked quietly. "You." The word was simple, absolute. "I get to keep you safe. Get to see you smile. Get to watch you dance whenever I want. Get to fall asleep with you in my arms and wake up to your face." He leaned closer, his hand sliding into her locks with surprising gentleness. "I get to finally feel something other than empty." Zara's breath caught. "You don't even know me." "I know enough. I know you're strong. You moved across the world twice to chase your dreams. I know you're loyal. You send money home even when you're barely surviving. I know you're brave. You didn't run when everyone else would have. And I know that when I saw you dancing, I felt alive for the first time in 10 years. His forehead touched hers, their lips inches apart. Say yes, Zara. Let me take care of you. Let me give you everything you deserve. And if I say no? Then I'll drive you home, and I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been. His voice was rough. But I'm hoping you won't, because I think you need this as much as I do. Zara looked into his eyes and saw the truth there. This wasn't about control or possession or some sick power trip. This was a lonely man offering a desperate woman a lifeline and hoping she'd pull him out of the dark with her. Two broken people trying to fix each other. Okay, she whispered. Yes, I'll stay. Ji-Hoon's kiss was fierce and claiming and absolutely perfect. Zara melted into him, her hands fisting in his expensive shirt, giving herself over to the insanity of falling for a gangster she'd met 3 hours ago. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-Hoon pressed his forehead to hers. You're mine now, he murmured. I protect what's mine. Always. The next 2 weeks were the strangest of Zara's life. Ji-Hoon moved her into his penthouse that first night. Not just her clothes, but everything. Her pathetic furniture from her studio, her photos from home, her grandmother's quilt. He made space for her things among his expensive minimalism, like he was proving she belonged there. He set up a bank account in her name with more money than she'd make in 5 years of bartending. Paid off her grandmother's medical debt. Enrolled her in an intensive Korean language course at Yonsei University. Called modeling agencies and secured meetings that would have taken her years to get on her own. But more than the money and the opportunities, he gave her time. He came home every evening. Home, because it was starting to feel like their home, and cooked dinner with her, teaching her to make Korean dishes while she taught him to make collard greens and cornbread. They watched American movies with Korean subtitles and Korean dramas with English subtitles, laughing at the mistranslations. He asked about her life, her dreams, her family, told her about his own childhood. The father who'd raised him in violence, the mother who'd died when he was 12, the empire he'd inherited too young, and the blood on his hands he couldn't wash off. And every night, he made love to her like she was precious and necessary and absolutely essential to his existence. Zara had never felt so cherished, so protected, so seen. But she also wasn't naive. She saw the guards who followed them everywhere, saw the way restaurant owners trembled when Ji-Hoon walked in, saw him take phone calls in the middle of the night and leave with murder in his eyes, coming home hours later with blood on his knuckles. She knew what he was, what he did, and God help her, she didn't care. Because when he held her, she felt safe for the first time since her father died when she was 16. When he looked at her, she felt beautiful in a way modeling agencies never made her feel. When he said she was his, she felt like she finally belonged somewhere. It was week 3 when the cracks started showing. Zara was at a cafe near Gangnam Station, meeting with a modeling agency Ji-Hoon had connected her with, when a Korean woman in her 30s sat down across from her uninvited. Zara Mitchell, the woman said in perfect English. We need to talk. Zara's guard, a quiet man named Tae-min who followed her everywhere now, stepped forward, but the woman held up a hand. I'm not here to hurt her. I'm here to warn her. About what? Zara asked carefully. About Kang Ji-Hoon. The woman's eyes were hard. My name is Park Hye-jin. I was with him 2 years ago, before he decided I wasn't useful anymore. Ice flooded Zara's veins. I don't know what you think. He does this. Hyejin interrupted. Finds someone exotic, someone different, showers them with money and attention, makes them feel special. Then, when he gets bored, he discards them, sometimes with a severance package, sometimes not. That's not what this is, Zara said, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Hyejin leaned forward. Has he told you he loves you? We've only been together 3 weeks. Has he told you? Zara's throat was tight. No, but he won't. Because he doesn't love you. He loves the idea of you. The novelty. You're a trophy, Zara. A beautiful, exotic trophy that makes him look progressive and interesting. When the novelty wears off, you'll be replaced. Hyejin stood, dropping a business card on the table. When it happens, and it will, call me. I'll help you land on your feet. That's more than he'll do. She left, and Zara sat frozen, her coffee going cold, Hyejin's words echoing in her head. Trophy, exotic, novelty. The same words Mr. Kim had used when he hired her at Eclipse. Was that all she was to Ji-Hoon? An exotic accessory for a powerful man who got bored easily? That night, when Ji-Hoon came home, Zara was quiet, withdrawn. What's wrong? He asked immediately, his hands framing her face with that familiar gentleness. Do you love me? The question came out before she could stop it. Ji-Hoon went still. What? Do you love me, or am I just interesting, different, a novelty that'll wear off? His jaw tightened. Who did you talk to? It doesn't matter. Just answer the question. Ji-Hoon was silent for a long moment, his dark eyes searching hers. Then he said quietly, I don't know. The words hit like a slap. I've never loved anyone, he continued, his voice rough. I don't know what love feels like, but I know that when I'm with you, I'm not empty. I know that the thought of losing you makes me want to burn the world down. I know that you're the first thing I think about when I wake up, and the last thing I want to see before I sleep. If that's not love, I don't know what is. Tears burned Zara's eyes. Hyejin said you'll get bored of me. Park Hyejin. Ji-Hoon's voice went cold. She approached you? She warned me. She's bitter because I ended things when she tried to sell information about my businesses to a rival. His hands tightened on Zara's face. You are not her. You are not a transaction or a trophy or a fucking novelty. You're mine, and I don't get bored of what's mine. He kissed her then, desperate and claiming, and Zara melted into him, wanting to believe, needing to believe. But Hyejin's words had planted a seed of doubt that wouldn't quite die. Week 4 brought Ji-Hoon's birthday. He didn't celebrate normally, but Zara insisted. She planned an intimate dinner at the penthouse, cooked his favorite foods, wore a dress that made his eyes darken with want. They were halfway through dinner when his phone rang. He glanced at it, frowned, and answered. The conversation was in rapid Korean, but Zara had learned enough to catch a few words. Problem. Urgent. Warehouse. Ji-Hoon hung up, his expression grim. I have to go. On your birthday? It's important. I'll be back in a few hours. He kissed her forehead. Stay here. Don't leave for any reason. He left with his guards, and Zara cleaned up dinner, trying not to feel disappointed. An hour later, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Want to see what your boyfriend really does? Warehouse at Inchinport. Pier 7. Come alone. Zara stared at the message. Every instinct screamed it was a trap, but curiosity and that lingering doubt from Hyejin's warning made her call a taxi. Taemin, her guard, had gone with Ji-Hoon. She was alone. The warehouse was exactly as ominous as she'd imagined. Dark, isolated, smelling of salt water and rust. Zara pushed open the door with trembling hands. Inside, she found Ji-Hoon, and 3 men kneeling in front of him, bloody and beaten. Ji-Hoon held a gun, his expression cold and emotionless. He was speaking in Korean, his voice flat, and even without understanding the words, Zara knew he was sentencing them. One of the men was crying, begging. Ji-Hoon shot him without hesitation. The sound echoed through the warehouse. Zara's scream died in her throat. Ji-Hoon turned at the sound, his eyes widening in shock when he saw her. "Zara!" She ran out of the warehouse, into the night, her heels clicking on pavement, her breath coming in sobs. She didn't know where she was going, didn't care, just needed to get away from the image of Ji-Hoon, her Ji-Hoon, executing a man like it meant nothing. Strong arms grabbed her from behind, and Zara screamed. But it wasn't Ji-Hoon. It was someone else. Multiple someones. Hands over her mouth. Something sharp jabbing into her arm. The world going fuzzy. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was a voice speaking Korean, followed by rough laughter. Ji-Hoon stood in the warehouse, staring at the spot where Zara had been, his heart turning to ice. She'd seen him kill someone. Seen the monster he really was. And she'd run. He couldn't blame her. But then Taemin burst through the door, his face pale. "Boss, Miss Zara's phone. We found it in the parking lot. There are signs of a struggle." The ice in Ji-Hoon's chest turned to fire. "Who?" One word. Deadly calm. "Security footage shows a van. Lee family markings." The Lee family? Rivals who'd been testing his territory for months. Who'd sent the men Ji-Hoon had just executed for trying to hijack his shipments. They'd taken Zara. His Zara. Ji-Hoon's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "Kang Ji-Hoon," a voice said in Korean. "We have your pretty foreign pet. Soft. Curvy. Cries a lot." White-hot rage flooded through him. "If you've touched her, return our territory and you get her back. Mostly intact." "Where?" "You have 6 hours to decide. Then we start cutting pieces off." The line went dead. Ji-Hoon stood perfectly still for 3 seconds. Then he turned to his men. "Full mobilization. I want every Lee property in Seoul surrounded. I want their families found. I want their bank accounts frozen. I want their businesses burned." His voice was deadly quiet. "And I want Lee Dong-hyun's head on my desk by sunrise." "Boss, that's..." "War, yes. They started it when they touched what's mine." Zara woke up tied to a chair in a concrete room that smelled of mold and fear. 3 Korean men stood around her, speaking rapidly in Korean. One of them grabbed her face roughly, examining her like livestock. "Pretty," he said in broken English. "Kang has good taste." "Let me go," Zara said, her voice steadier than she felt. "He'll kill you for this." The men laughed. "He'll pay first. Then maybe we give you back." The leader pulled out a knife. "Maybe missing a few fingers. Exotic ones, yes?" Zara's heart hammered, but she lifted her chin. "You have no idea what you've started." The man raised the knife. The door exploded inward. Ji-Hoon stood in the doorway, gun raised, his suit torn and bloodied, his eyes absolutely feral. "Remove that weapon from her head," he said quietly, his voice deadly calm. "And I'll make your death quick. Keep it there, and I'll make sure you beg for weeks before I let you die." The leader pressed the knife to Zara's throat. "One more step!" Ji-Hoon shot him in the kneecap. The man screamed, dropping. The other two reached for weapons, but Ji-Hoon was faster. 2 shots. 2 bodies hitting the floor. Then he was cutting Zara's bonds, his hands shaking, his eyes scanning her for injuries. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you? Zara, talk to me." "I'm okay," she managed. "Ji-Hoon, I'm okay." He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I thought I lost you. I thought..." His voice broke. Behind them, more gunfire erupted. Ji-Hoon shielded Zara with his body, shooting over his shoulder with lethal precision. "We need to move. Now!" They ran through the warehouse, Ji-Hoon's men providing cover fire. Outside, Seoul was lit up with flames. Lee family businesses burning across the city. In the car, Zara finally found her voice. "You started a war." "They took you." Ji-Hoon's hands cupped her face, his eyes wild. "They took you and I would burn this entire city to ash before I let them keep you." "I saw you kill that man," Zara whispered. "In the warehouse." Ji-Hoon's jaw tightened. "I know. And now you know what I am. What I do. I understand if you..." "I love you." He went still. "What?" "I love you," Zara repeated, tears streaming down her face. "I'm terrified of what you are. I'm horrified by what I saw. But I love you anyway. Because you came for me. Because you'd burn the world down to keep me safe. Because you're mine as much as I'm yours." Ji-Hoon's kiss was desperate and reverent and filled with everything he couldn't say. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. "I love you too," he said roughly. "God help me. I love you so much it terrifies me." The war with the Lee family lasted 3 days. By the end, the Lees had lost half their territory, most of their leadership, and Lee Dong-hyun had fled to Japan with a price on his head. Zara watched it unfold from the safety of the penthouse, guarded by a dozen men, while Ji-Hoon methodically dismantled an empire. When he finally came home, exhausted and bloodied but alive, she cleaned his wounds and held him while he slept for 18 hours straight. They didn't talk about what happened. Didn't need to. She'd seen the monster, and she'd chosen to stay anyway. A week later, Ji-Hoon took her to a private beach house outside Seoul. "I want to ask you something," he said as they walked along the sand. Zara's heart raced. "Okay. Stay with me. Not as an arrangement. Not as a transaction. As my wife." He pulled out a ring, a stunning diamond that caught the sunset. "Marry me, Zara. Be mine legally, officially, permanently. Let me spend the rest of my life proving you made the right choice." Zara looked at this dangerous, broken, beautiful man who loved her enough to start a war. This gangster who cooked her breakfast and kissed her scars and made her feel like she was finally home. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." When Ji-Hoon kissed her, Zara knew she'd made the right choice. Not the safe choice, not the smart choice, but the choice that made her feel alive. Zara stood in the penthouse, now fully transformed into a home, watching the Seoul skyline as the sun set. She was 7 months pregnant, her belly round with Ji-Hoon's daughter. Her modeling career had taken off. She was the face of 3 major Korean brands. Her grandmother had moved to Seoul, living in Na, a luxury apartment Ji-Hoon bought her. and Ji-Hoon had slowly, carefully started legitimizing his businesses. Still powerful, still dangerous when necessary, but trying to build something cleaner for their daughter. Arms wrapped around her from behind, Ji-Hoon's hands settling on her belly. "She's kicking," Zara said softly. "She knows her daddy's home." His lips brushed her neck. "How was your day?" "Good. The doctor says everything's perfect." "Like her mother." Zara turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd changed her entire life. "No regrets?" "About what?" "Choosing me. Starting a war. Turning your life upside down." Ji-Hoon's smile was soft and real and absolutely devastating. "My only regret is not finding you sooner." He kissed her, and Zara melted into him, grateful for the night she'd walked into a gangster's club and danced without knowing a predator was watching. Sometimes the most dangerous choices led to the most beautiful destinations. If this story set your heart racing, please subscribe to my channel, smash that like button, and drop a comment telling us, would you have said yes to Kang Ji-Hoon? Would you risk everything for a love that dangerous? Drop your thoughts below. Tell us where you're watching from, and remember, sometimes the best love stories start with the most reckless decisions. Until next time, stay blessed and stay bold.